Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sports Now, the show where we go over and debate the biggest stories in sports. I'm Josh Heller, as always joined by my co-host, Logan Ripley. Logan, how's it going today?
It's going all right today. A lot of news, a lot of fluctuation in our big sports, and we're going to get right into it.
Yeah, we'll start with baseball. Dexter Fowler, he ditched the Orioles. We reported in yesterday's show that in our previous show that he was going to sign with the Orioles, and he backed out of that. He instead signs a one-year deal with an option for 2017. He signs that deal with the Cubs, so he goes back to Chicago.
You look at this deal. He was going to get 3 years for the Orioles, correct? So, was this a better fit for him? That's why he went back. Feels more at home with the Cubs.
I wonder if it's the fact that the Cubs are so good.
Yeah.
And the Orioles aren't that close.
The Orioles are trying to get...
And the Orioles aren't bad.
They're not bad. They weren't as good as the Cubs.
Exactly. Right.
But, the Orioles are trying to acquire a lot of pieces. This is not good for them to lose out on him. In our other news, we did see a signing at the pitcher position.
Yes.
We'll talk about him in a second.
Yeah.
But Fowler, he's a very speedy guy, and you have some stats on him.
Yeah. So over his 12 seasons, I believe it is, 12-season career, he's triple slash, 267 average, 363 on base, 418 slugging, and his weighted runs created plus is a 107, so just above average in that category. He can steal bases, he's got speed, and we talked last show about how the outfield would have been Schwarber, Hayward, and Jorge Soler.
Right.
So now I'm curious if Fowler's going to go to left, or maybe Hayward goes to left, then they try and put Schwarber back behind the plate, but then I wonder what they do with Miguel Montero. It's just a case of too many guys.
Which is not a bad thing to have.
You just need guys to accept their roles.
That, or with how the market looks, who's the best trade possibility, maybe before, they're going to play the first half of the season probably with the roster that they have right now.
Right.
Without injuries taking place, hopefully for them.
Mm-hmm.
If, say, they stay healthy the whole year, their main core guys, and they don't need a Fowler to, play more than he has to, or other people, they might look to trade some of those pieces to get what they need. Say their bullpen's underperforming, that's definitely a good option for them, and that's why it's good to sign pieces like Fowler to one-year deals.
Yeah, right.
This doesn't hurt them. It helps them more than it hurts, and they definitely pulled one away from the Orioles.
I do wonder, out of all the guys, though, who they're going to get rid of and who they're going to keep, because Schwarber's got amazing power, Soler's good, Jason Hayward's obviously good. I thought Fowler was the most expendable piece. I wonder if they maybe look at Miguel Montero as a piece they can afford to get rid of now.
Yeah, I think they're going to see how it goes this season, early and throughout the first half. We'll definitely be looking into that and broadcasting that to you.
Yeah. So we also reported last show that Gallardo would not sign with the Orioles over some medical concern. Boy, how things have changed.
Yeah, Orioles, they lost one, they gained one, they gained one, they lost one.
Yes, Gallardo signs a 2-year, $22 million deal with the Orioles, and then after that, a 1-year, $11 million option. Gallardo, not a bad piece in his career, a 3.66 ERA, 3.74 FIP, fielder independent pitching. 8.23 K per 9, 3.31 watts per 9. Not like a flashy guy who's going to lead your rotation or anything, but a solid piece of the rotation nonetheless. And now the Orioles help to solidify that rotation as they try and make a push to contend for the AL East.
Moving on to some bigger news, not necessarily bigger, but for a broad scope, the MLB is implementing some new rules. Predominantly because of the Chase Utley slide.
Yes.
That has gained a lot of attention over this offseason, and also speeding up the game as we saw last year, and there's some of their rule implements. So
yeah, we all know that the Utley slide was really dirty, and technically it's in the rules, I guess, but now it's not with the new change. This is from Yahoo Sports about the mound visits. Starting the season, mound visits from managers and pitching coaches will be limited to 30 seconds and tracked on an in-stadium clock from the moment they exit the dugout. So it's very similar to how they only have a certain amount of time to warm up for the inning to begin prior to the inning. It's just one of those cases you don't want every game to be 3.5 hours. I felt that the changes made the games a little faster this past season. It was definitely a little like they flowed a little better, and I feel that this is just going to make that better. And with the Utley slide rule, we're not going to see guys get their legs broken in the in the middle of a playoff run.
Right,
So,
which definitely hurts the team.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, nothing wrong with these rule changes. If anything, good move from the MLB in this case.
Going to the slide rule a little bit more. This is from the Mets manager Terry Collins from ESPN. We're making a slide rule that keeps you on the bag. Collins said, you've got to be near the bag, and now we're making a decision on the neighborhood play that you've got to stay on the bag. You know what that's going to mean? Someone is going to get their clocks cleaned.
Yes.
So he's still a little upset about what happened.
Oh, just a little.
And as Josh alluded to. So I hope there's more information that will come out on that. Seems like they've talked about the mound time limit more than the sliding, so hope to look for that.
Right. So we're going to move from that to the NHL. Montreal Canadiens dealing with some injury issues. First up, happened a couple days ago. Tom Gilbert is going to miss the rest of the season, the playoffs. If Montreal gets there, he's going to be out at least 6 months with I believe it's a knee injury. Not sure on that. Gilbert, 2 points in 45 games this season as a defenseman. You don't expect very much. Pretty good top six defenseman. Nothing too flashy there. I remember the Rangers being linked to him at one point or another. He's going to be missed with that, but they have guys to replace him. But one of the guys, another guy that the Canadiens are going to miss is Jeff Petrie. They had just extended him this past offseason, a solid top four defenseman for them. He's going to be out at least the rest of the regular season with an injury. If the Canadiens can make the playoffs, then he could possibly join them there, but they are going to be missing something on that back end there with Petrie and Gilbert out. We move to the Chicago Blackhawks, who, of course, they always contend for the Stanley Cup, so they're going for some moves here. They're interested in Vancouver Canucks defenseman Dan Hamhuis and Vancouver Canucks forward Radim Vrbata. Hamhuis is a pretty solid top four defenseman. He's getting top 2 minutes out in Vancouver. Vrbata is a really good right-handed top six sniper for the Canucks, linked to a bunch of teams. I'm hoping that the Rangers can get him, but it's not looking that way. The Blackhawks, they have assets to give up, and they're going to improve their team in any way they can. Personally, I feel their depth is a little weak. Their top six is overloaded, but then once you get past that, it's just meh the rest of the way. Hamhuis had some solid defensive guys on the back to replace if they want to give like Eric Gustafsson some rest, and Vrbata can fill in for the injured Marian Hossa. The Rangers are reportedly interested in Mart Stahl's brother Eric, who's on the Hurricanes. Eric is also playing with Mart's brother Jordan on the Hurricanes. They're reportedly linked to them mostly per New York Post's Larry Brooks. Stahl's having a pretty off season with only, I believe it's like 4 goals. Stahl's also shooting the lowest shooting percentage of his career. So we'd have to wait and see there. I don't want the Rangers to give up too much for him. They don't have much to give up, to be totally honest with you. They're kind of out of first-round picks for 40 years from now. So we move from that. The Winnipeg Jets, their top center, arguably Brian Little, he's out for the rest of the season with a fractured vertebrae. That's really going to hinder their playoff hopes if they had any left, especially with Andrew Ladd most likely gone by the trade deadline. And lastly, just a really minor trade. The Edmonton Oilers trade the rights to defenseman Philip Larson, who's currently in the KHL, the Continental Hockey League, to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2017 fifth-rounder. Larson's doing okay in the KHL, nothing too special, but Vancouver gets another defenseman who hopefully they can re-sign, as I believe his contract might be up soon.
All right.
I need a break.
How was that? Over to the association. T-Wolves planning on buying out Andre Miller. Of course, Andre Miller, guard/2 player.
Veteran.
Yep.
Veteran.
More than a vet. So I think the same place you saw this was Twitter, Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yeah.
Minnesota guard Andre Miller is financing a buyout. Agent Andy Miller tells at The Vertical Miller wants to sign on a playoff contender.
Don't we all?
We all. And I look at Miller as a Livingston type, if you know what I mean. You know, he shoots the ball subpar, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, he can create for other players. He can.
Yes.
He plays his position very well, and he knows how to play. He's been in the league for a while, and he's been on teams for a while. He's not one of those free agents who's been looking for jobs for,
right, yeah.
you know, for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Ray Allen. Looking for the right job.
Yeah.
So I could see him go on a team like the Cavs and play for them right off the bench. The bench is very weak. I don't think Matthew Dellavedova can really handle the workload. I know Mo Williams is hurt. He's on the team. I'm not sure what his timetable is for coming back. J.R. Smith has been starting for them. Iman Shumpert is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So they possibly could be a very high choice for Miller, but we do not know for certain.
No, don't we all want to sign with the Cavs? So?
We do, but from
I'd like a ring.
From the contenders of him narrowing that down, that's where I see him going if he wants to stay in the Eastern Conference.
Okay, so we're kind of speeding through this, so I want to slow it down with something here. Who do you think is going to come out of the East? Well, let's start with this. Do you agree that Golden State's coming out of the West?
Yes.
Okay, who's coming out of the East?
The Cavs.
Okay, who's going to win?
The Cavs.
Why?
If their bench is healthy,
okay,
Richard Jefferson is going to have to play a pretty big role on that bench. Pretty big role, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that they match up the best with them. I don't think I'll just go back to the Western Conference here. I don't think the Spurs are going to be able to beat the Warriors.
Right.
So in the East, no one really is matching up. Toronto.
Toronto's good, though.
I don't think Toronto's ready to beat the Cavs. I think the Cavs are going to be dismantled in the next 3 years, but that's when the Raptors are really going to flourish. Something that we're going to be talking about later, and then I'll make my final point on that when we continue.
Really quick, could you see the Celtics challenging the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals?
It would have to be in the second round.
Okay, the way it would work out?
Yeah, because last year we were the 8 seed playing the Cavs, who were the 1 seed. It'd have to be in the second round. I'm not positive it's the way it's going to work out.
Okay.
I think we can win the first round matchup. Again, I'm not positive who we'd be playing. I think we could. I want to see us win the first round, and I want to see us do well in the second. We don't have to necessarily win. I think we can challenge any team in the NBA.
I think you could, too.
We lost to the Warriors earlier in the year.
Double overtime, right?
Double overtime.
Yep.
Arguably should have won the game. It could have went either way in double overtime. So, and they haven't lost too many games after that.
Yeah,
after that win. So,
yeah.
I think that we can challenge teams. We have the roster makeup to cover on defense. We have one of the best defenses in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Our problem just comes, can we score points? And when we keep teams under 100, we do very well. But when we're over like 110, we're not as good. We just lost to the Timberwolves the other night by 2 points, and it was up in the 120s. So
yeah,
that's just a little thing. We're not very good at outscoring other teams, and I think the Cavs are good at outscoring other teams because that's just the way the roster is built to shoot the three, along with the Warriors. But I think the Warriors play defense better than the Cavs. The Cavs are going to have to get someone either from free agency or some other way, sign and trade, something like that, to really bolster their bench.
All right, we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Joe Johnson might be bought out, and breaking news as we record, the Nets have waived Joe Johnson.
All right, so
it happened.
So it happened.
Yes.
And the two teams I have written down are, of course, the Cavs and the Celtics, who we've been talking about.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to get to about that. The Cavs, Joe Johnson, that would be the piece. That's the way that they beat the Warriors right there.
Yeah.
And I just think that he is a very great shooter, and he can play defense, and he's been the only bright spot for the Nets this whole year.
Him and Brook Lopez.
And the games that they have won have been because of Joe Johnson. Of course, he's not averaging as high as points as he used to do at Atlanta.
I'd say Brook Lopez has been more effective, though.
He has the only plus on the team.
That's sad.
Did you know that Joe Johnson had the only plus on the team?
No. Oh, Joe Johnson.
Yeah.
No. That's sad.
Per replacement.
Yeah,
right,
that's
if
sad.
I'm correct.
Yeah, per.
Yeah, he has the only one on the team now. That could have to do with many factors.
Yeah, there's a whole formula.
But I think he's pretty high on a lot of people's radars. And
definitely. Yeah.
if he goes to the Celtics, of course he's gonna have a big thing to. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of turmoil going on. Avery Bradley's there now, but that doesn't mean that they can't make it work. And
would you put Joe Johnson in a starting spot if he went to the Celtics or no?
I think you'd have to be.
You would.
I think he'd have to be, unless he buys into the system. If Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge have a talk to him and he comes off the bench, we'd just be so dynamic. I think I would instantly raise my expectations from winning the first round to being in the Eastern Conference with one player.
Now let's look at Cleveland. So they have Kyrie, they have JR and Shumpert, small forward. Is it LeBron? He plays more power forward. LeBron does, right?
LeBron would be playing small forward.
He would.
Kevin Love and then Tristan Thompson would be playing.
So since the Cavaliers are so good, do you think they could convince Joe Johnson to come in on a bench role?
Their bench is horrible. They're a top heavy team. Their bench is a lot older and a lot older than Joe Johnson is.
Right.
So what I would do, since Shumpert is hurt and their two guards are pretty much non-existent besides J.R. Smith,
yeah,
I'd bring him in and I'd start him.
Over who?
Over J.R. Smith, yes.
Okay.
I heard the other day someone was talking about how J.R. Smith is one of the best shooters of our time, and it's did anyone watch him last year in the finals?
Mm-hmm.
LeBron needed about 15 points from one guy.
Yes.
No one could do it.
Yeah.
Joe Johnson leads the league in the past decade with 7 game-winning shots.
Really?
Leads the league.
In the past decade?
That's
a lot of time.
He's the guy that needs to come into the team. He's the guy that they've been looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they pursued him earlier before the Shumpert and J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that just didn't work out for them at the time. But this is the time to get him. And I think that the Cavs and the Celtics will be gunning for him. And they hope that if he doesn't go to either one of them, he goes to the West.
Yeah.
Not to the Warriors, because he wouldn't go there. They wouldn't mess with that.
Probably not. But we don't know.
Another team in the West, so they don't have to deal with him in the East on a better contending team. Yeah, another one, because, what was it, Roberson?
Yeah. Andre might be his first name?
Yes. He's starting, and Waiters is kind of on and off.
Yeah.
Which I know he's Syracuse alum, but I like him, but I don't like him that much.
Yeah.
So. We'll move over to the Wizards, staying in the Eastern Conference. What'd they do?
We talked last show that they were probably going to sign Hitson in the next coming days. Well, it's a next coming day. They officially signed J.J. Hitson for the remainder of the season. Veteran contract, prorated minimum veteran. So he's just a depth move for them when they still have Nene and all that. Obviously not going to be a starting piece there, but Washington isn't doing as well as many people thought they would, including me. I thought they'd be doing a lot better. So they increased their bench depth with a signing like this.
So he's a 6'9". We talked about this last show. 6'9", center. Could either plays power forward and center.
Yeah.
He's an 8-year veteran. Appeared in 20 games for Denver this season, averaging 6.9 points, 4.4 rebounds, in 15.3 minutes. So his stats are a lot lower than it used to be.
Yeah.
He used to be top 5 in rebounds for like probably a good 2-3 year span. He's a very good rebounder, and he'll serve as their third center in the front court behind Gortat and Nene. They also have Chris Humphreys on the team, along with DeJuan Blair, who was very good in college, not so good in the.
Well, he's not bad in the NBA.
He's not bad. Actually, never mind. They after trading big men, they traded. All right, so that makes more sense. They traded away Chris Humphreys and DeJuan Blair, plus a first rounder to Phoenix.
Oh, and the Markieff Morris trade.
Yeah, Markieff Morris. So that's even more reason to get Hickson, who's very undervalued at this point in his career.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're a veteran minimum contract.
He's 19th overall pick, 28 draft. So that shows that his upside. He is in his 8th year, but people peak late.
Yep. So we move to my Knicks and your Celtics. There was almost a trade at the deadline where the Celtics tried to get Carmelo Anthony, but he would reportedly not waive his no-trade clause to go to Boston.
By not waiving, you mean he would not attest?
He would not forego his clause.
So he would have been fine going to Boston?
No, it was totally his choice.
So he did waive?
No, if you waive your no-trade clause, that means you'll go to that place. He would not waive it, so that means he wanted to stay in New York.
Oh, all right.
I'm going to give you a Knicks fan perspective.
All right.
Melo's worth a lot. You say what you want about Carmelo.
I'm a Syracuse fan, so I know.
I know, yeah. You say what you want about him, selfish, whatever. He can make shots. And like you were saying, the Celtics struggle a little bit on the offensive side, right?
Yeah.
So Melo would help with that. The thing is, though, I'm curious if that Brooklyn pick would have been involved. I'd be fine with that. As a Knicks fan, I would love that.
Yeah, you guys would definitely make out in the deal because Carmelo, say he does go to Boston for 1 year. Mm-hmm. Whoever knows, I don't know how it would have worked out.
Right, yeah.
You guys would most likely get both Brooklyn, maybe the Mavericks first-round pick, and a player.
A good piece.
And we'd get Melo and Jarian Grant. Something like that.
Yeah.
Not even Grant, maybe something less.
Sasha Vujicic.
Jimmer. Sure. Jimmer and Vujicic. So I'm happy it didn't happen because in the offense that the Boston Celtics have, it's key to move the ball. And number one in isolation, Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
Being a fan of his from when he was in college, his game has not developed in the way that NBA is moving. It's less isolation. It's more moving the ball, playing defense. And when I look at the things he does well, make shots, like you said, does not play defense, doesn't necessarily pass the ball. When he's hot, and no one's hotter. Mm-hmm. He can shoot the ball with anyone. Probably is the best from any spot on the floor.
Yeah.
Almost like Kobe was in his heyday. But the way the NBA is moving on from this isolation type of players, like a Joe Johnson, not as bad as Carmelo. LeBron is even up there in isolation per possession, and the only reason he does well is because he can pass the ball. He'll ISO out, get doubled, pass it out. They're built around the three. The Knicks are not built around the three.
Right.
So if you have Carmelo on your team, you need three shooters lined up around from the power forward to the point guard and a center that can rebound. So when he was on the Nuggets, they had a pretty decent team for that.
Yeah.
Right now, the Knicks had not been that way. They were built very heavy in the front court, and the Celtics are very good shooters from around the three in some aspects of their lineup.
Mm-hmm.
If they went that way, say we didn't have to give up the Nets picks, and we didn't have them in general. It's just say this is like 2 years down the road, then the picks are gone. Yeah, sure. But I'd rather see a younger guy come in And that's just my personal opinion on that one.
Yep. So you're glad it didn't happen.
Yes, I am glad.
I'm mad.
Yeah, because you'd be getting the picks, and I wouldn't stop hearing about it.
Yes, I know.
And you get like the next iconic player, and him and Porzingis would be
Ben Simmons.
Would be the Steve Nash and Dirk of the future, or something like that.
Oh,
so,
man.
I'm happy it didn't happen.
Uh,
we'll move on though. The Heat.
The Heat doctors are pressuring Chris Bosh to sit out for the rest of the season with his reoccurring blood clots. So he had these problems last season, and he sat out for a while, and then came back this season. Played pretty well, I would say. Made the All-Star game. He couldn't go because of the reoccurring blood clots, and now he's pressured to sit out for the rest of the season, and I'm just hoping it's not for the rest of the career or anything.
Yeah, this is definitely a weird story that's
It's a life-threatening injury. It's
right,
not a basketball-threatening injury.
The blood clot started in his calf last season, and it moved to his lung.
Yeah.
He sat out the last 30 games of the season and took blood thinners for several months following that 2015 clotting that happened. He's going to have to do the same thing. Now, they caught it earlier than last season.
I think so, yeah.
I think he needs to sit out again, and he needs to go through something in the offseason because, this guy could die on the court.
Yeah, I know. It's scary.
And blood clots are not something.
It's not anything to mess around with.
And I know basketball is like his job, but I think the Heat will understand. I mean, he did bring a few titles there with LeBron and Wade, and I think they'd rather have younger guys play and, improve their skills while Bosh gets ready and, Wade is still healthy and maybe make a run next season in the Eastern Conference. Make a run this year. They still have people. They still have pieces.
Yeah.
He's not, putting up 25 a game like he did in Toronto. He hasn't done that in 6 years.
Right.
So I think he should sit out and, work on his health more so than the season that they're going to look to be in the sixth spot, something like that. So,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So hopefully he's able to rebound. Just Chris Bosh, I know you like to play basketball, but sit out, buddy.
Sit out.
Worry about your health.
Yeah, exactly.
We move on to football. Jason Pierre-Paul has filed a lawsuit against both ESPN and ESPN reporter Adam Schefter for posting his medical records last summer. That's per USA Today.
So we all...
And New York Post.
Well, everyone in New York, at least, has heard about Jason Pierre-Paul's injury to his hands, a July 4th incident where they were like poppers or something along the lines of that, and they exploded in his hands when he was throwing them. It was a great piece done by ESPN that talked to him throughout it. I watched it a couple months ago. He came back for the final. Was he out 5 games maybe?
It was at least. I think it was way more than that.
More than that.
I think it was closer to 10.
All right, so he was back for let's just say the end of the season.
Yeah.
And he was definitely impactful.
Yeah.
I think he had maybe 1 or 2 sacks.
Yeah.
But he was, he was forcing
with that big club.
Yeah. So he wore the club. Now, as aspiring journalists for the future, we were posed with this question every day: is it ethical or unethical? And from what Adam Schefter did, I'd say it's unethical, even though it's knowledge of the team. The team didn't have knowledge of it. He didn't want people to know of it at that time.
Right.
It hurts his credibility. It hurts his, his image. It hurts his...
Oh, it definitely hurts his image, yeah.
Hurts his money situation.
Yep.
For being re-signed. So I guess I'll ask a question to you. I think it's unethical what he did, and
who Schefter
illegal.
Did? What Schefter did?
Yes.
Yes,
so,
I agree.
So I want to hear your opinion on this a little bit.
You want to hear my opinion?
Yes.
Ditto.
All right.
He's definitely in the right suing. I am curious actually how that lawsuit's going
to go. I don't know how it's going to work out. I think that what's going to happen is going to mainly focus on ESPN because what does Schefter really have that Jason Pierre-Paul doesn't already?
This is per USA Today. The lawsuit doesn't specify how much money Pierre-Paul is seeking, other than it is, quote, in an action for damages in excess of $15,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's not extremely
right. It's not like
crazy.
I want $1 million out of you.
Right.
It's not anything like that.
Which I think he has. I think he has a very good case in this. One thing you do learn going through the comm building or other things like it. Public figures would slander. Public figures you can say whatever you want about them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to backlash. But when you do something like this, it's kind of extreme. I was very surprised when Schefter came up with Adam Schefter came up with the reports on what had gone wrong with PierrePaul, and it's just something that's sad because he's a great reporter.
Yeah.
I guess people at ESPN have been seeing these issues. There's an NBA reporter that talked about Roger Goodell the wrong
Yeah,
way.
I don't remember which one that was, but yeah.
He was also a Boston Celtics fan.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
okay.
that one. He was on TNT.
Yeah.
But things with ESPN have kind of been escalating. I've seen.
Yeah,
for the past few years.
For sure.
Jeremy Lin situation a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how their hiring process goes.
Yep.
Not only the suing.
PierrePaul had surgery after the season. He is a free agent, so we will have to see where that goes. I know we're on the NFL. Just going back to the MLB for a second. This is per John Heyman. Chapman's suspension won't come today, but it will come soon.
All right.
No cooperating witness, no charges, but he will get a ban. So, like I said, if he's banned for a certain amount of games this year, it doesn't really count under his service time or on his contract.
Which will help the Yankees. I applaud that effort by the MLB.
So we'll have to, I don't know exactly what that threshold is. I'm gonna have to get that number, but we will wait and see on that.
Moving on, we'll just go through a couple quick things. I'm gonna skip one story today. We're gonna go over to the breaking Trent Richardson story. What do you have for that?
Yeah, the Ravens are expected to sign Trent Richardson. If you look at that Ravens backfield, they have Justin Forsett, they have Lorenzo Taliaferro, and Buck Allen. So no big name guys. I mean, Forsett's a big name, but if he can't stay healthy, he was injured last season. If he can't stay healthy, then that's kind of a problem.
Exactly, it's a problem for any team.
Yeah, but I mean, Trent Richardson's not that good anymore, is he?
He was never good in the first place, only in college, Alabama.
Okay, so you agree.
Yeah, Cleveland, maybe they're looking to rectify his career. And,
good luck with that.
But I guess we'll see from that. We don't have too much more to say about that. I mean,
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is,
He's gotten all these chances, never really worked. I mean, Cleveland,
keeps getting
he was okay.
chances because he was a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't think it's going to work out.
Just upset because he was so good in college, and he can't transfer that to the NFL.
Yep.
We're going to go over to 49ers news. Colin Kaepernick staying with the 49ers. Posing this question here, best fit for Chip Kelly is the guy on the roster right now with Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think so, yeah. Well, I mean, he's better than Blaine Gabbert.
Right.
in my opinion. He just had a bad season last year. I still think he's not good quarterback. I think he's a pretty okay quarterback. I think he could still be a starting quarterback in the league. He just needs to figure out, he has trouble with his accuracy. He's good mobile. We know all that.
Right.
If he can just kind of put all the pieces together, then maybe he would be able to stay in San Fran and succeed under Chip Kelly.
Right. I think Chip Kelly's offense is going to make it a little bit simpler for him. So if he can really understand the playbook, I think he can do well there. Talk a little about a guy who was suspended and didn't play this past year and hasn't played a lot over the last 2 years. Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
Reports out of Cleveland is he'll be welcome back to Cleveland in open arms.
Really? Okay.
So, the whole Johnny Manziel situation.
Yeah.
Josh Gordon. They're actually buds. I don't know how the Johnny Manziel situation is going to work out, but Josh Gordon now with the NFL changing some policies on marijuana smoking and other things. Maybe they're seeing this isn't as big of a deal as it has been in the past.
Right, especially when you look at how the NFL treated cases like Ray Rice and Greg Hardy's playing.
Exactly.
This
Why
whole
is this
Josh
guy?
Gordon deal, not that, well, I mean, it's kind of a big deal. He broke the law, obviously.
Right.
But it's not as big a deal as like domestic abuse,
but
for example.
What has spiraled from this last case is that, I'll go the first time he was smoking and, they tested him and that's what happened. The second time, supposedly, he was not smoking and was in the room. Now, I don't know the specifics about the medical things that can happen for contact high and so on. But he says he just made a bad decision there, and he admitted to it. And I hope to see him back on the field because he's a great player and from what I know, he's not out there beating his girlfriend or whoever he's with, like some of these other people that are still playing in the NFL. So
or other sports, yeah.
Right,
yep.
Or other sports,
right?
Exactly.
Chapman, yeah.
Yep.
So we usually talk about pro sports, but let's move on to college.
Yep.
In last night's game, number 5 Xavier beat number 1 Villanova. So who's number 1 now? Who do you think?
Well, Xavier made their case last night, I guess. But I think Kansas is going to be number 1, and you're going to see Xavier move to number 2, and Virginia 3, Oklahoma 4, and so on from there. When I see Villanova and teams like Xavier play, and they're very high, I feel like they're not tested enough. You see Oklahoma and Kansas play, they've played 2 games already, and they're the top teams, and you're looking at those losses, it's like it could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
But if they play a team like Villanova or Xavier, I assume that Oklahoma will win, and I assume that Kansas will beat Xavier.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma will beat Villanova, and either way in that situation.
Yeah.
I think that these lower-level teams are getting more publicity than they should, especially Villanova. The past couple of years, Villanova's had good teams, and you've seen them been bounced from the tournament very early, and evidence of that is Syracuse last year. Villanova was ranked very high last year.
Yeah.
During the regular season, and at one point, Syracuse almost beat them with the 2-3 zone, and it's like Syracuse had no players on their team. Chris McCullough was out most of the year. At that point, he was out. So I think reporters are reading too much into Xavier and Villanova. Villanova's an older team. They have some seniors. They have some good players, good shooters. But I think they live and die by the 3, and they died by the 3 last night. Oklahoma, on the other hand, they do shoot a lot of threes, but they also have other playmakers. Kansas, of course, is very good, highly skilled, and Virginia's defense is starting to pick up. So
now you would put Oklahoma at 4?
Yeah, I would.
Now, I don't know, I follow pro sports way closer than I follow college, but I feel like Oklahoma deserves to be, like, top 3. I don't know.
Well, I think Villanova's going to bounce down. I think it's going to
top 5 or
I'd say Kansas, like I said before, Kansas, and then Xavier,
and then Virginia,
Oklahoma,
Nova. Okay.
North Carolina, Michigan State,
yeah,
Iowa, Maryland,
so on,
Arizona. Yeah, so
yeah.
I think that might be a possibility. Again, I don't have all the stats here, but that from what I've seen, I believe that's what's going to happen.
Yep. Now we're going to move on to the story, and I'm going to let you take the reins because it kind of involves golf.
All right, so Augusta National, place that Bobby Jones built, it's a different, I guess it's more of a racial story than anything. When I first saw it, Condoleezza Rice now has a membership there, where before women were not allowed to be members. It was predominantly white males. And then, of course, they have moved towards letting other races in, which, of course, is 2016, 2015, 2014, and before. It should have been happening a lot earlier. Condoleezza Rice just got in last year, I believe. But Steve Kerr made a bet with his team that if they won the finals, NBA Finals, that he would bring Steph Curry and Andre Iguodala to Augusta National, and he held true to that. They went with the owners, owner of
Golden State.
I don't think it was Golden State. I think it was another team.
Oh, okay.
I'm not yeah, I know it was kind of weird, but he held true on that. And of course, Curry is a scratch golfer.
Yeah,
so
he's good.
He's a very good golfer, and I've seen him in a couple of those pro-ams before.
Who wins in a matchup, Curry or Romo?
Wow, Romo's good too.
Yeah, no.
That's
what
tough
happens when you don't make the playoffs.
Right. Curry, Romo can't swing because of his shoulder.
Okay.
So I don't know how much Curry's working on his swing, but
focus on basketball for now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just think that's a very cool story, seeing how Augusta National is making exceptions, whereas before they probably would have never even done or thought about. So,
Yep.
I think it's good for the times and good for the sport of golf.
Anything else to add today, Logan?
No, that's about it.
All right. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure to follow our show on Twitter at RSR Sports Now. Follow our personal accounts. I'm at Josh Heller20. Logan?
All lowercase, LOGAN_RIPLEY, Logan Ripley.
You can find our archive shows for now on our SoundCloud page. Go to soundcloud.com/sports-now-RSR. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Sports Now on Facebook. Thank you for listening to Sports Now on Radio St. Rose. Be sure to tune in next time for all the latest news around the sports world.